Welcome to Behind the Grind, an entrepreneur think tank where we sit down with entrepreneurs and high-performing individuals to talk about their journey. My name is Jimmy O'Donovan. I'm sitting here with my co-host, Tucker Massey.
What's up, everyone? So Behind the Grind is sponsored by Long Hollow Creatives, a boutique co-working and co-op studio space located at 700 North Gillimard Street. So today we have the pleasure of sitting down with Claire Campbell, the owner of Ride Society. So Ride Society is a new fitness studio on Palafox. It's a meditative cardio experience where the mental aspect of the workout is just as important as the physical aspect. And inside of Ride Society, you can find Ripe, which supplies cold pressed juices to Palafox. They offer healthy choices for downtown. Claire, how you doing?
Hi guys,
What's up?
I'm great.
Welcome.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Of course. Thank you for your time.
And congratulations on your podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is episode 5 now.
Cool.
So yeah,
Mhm.
moving along.
Nice.
So how about you give the listener a background? Go a little more in depth than what I've given.
Okay.
Where you from?
Sure.
How'd you get going?
Yeah,
All
you
that
got
good
it.
stuff.
So from here, from Pensacola, I moved to New York City to pursue a career in filmmaking. I left when I was 18, right after high school. I went to the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan. I studied there for 4 years. I got a job right after graduating and was kind of at a crossroads. Do I stay in New York or do I move to California? And I opted to stay because I, of course, had built lots of contacts there, and I really loved living and working in the city. And yeah, cut to about 12 years later, I woke up one day and having been home on some recent trips to Pensacola, I was really inspired by all the growth and development that has been going on, particularly in downtown. And I kind of had the seed of an idea come to me on one of my final trips before I ultimately made the decision to leave New York. While living there, I fell in love with indoor cycling, rhythm riding indoor cycling. So it's a totally different method of traditional spin class. I hated spin. Like, I remember my mom taking me to a class like way back in the day when I was in high school or something, and I was like, what is this? Like, how do people do this? This is like,
Yeah.
I would way prefer to be outside. So when my friend, I'd actually gone through a terrible breakup, and my friend was like, pack a bag, come with me, we're gonna go, I'm taking you to this awesome class, it's gonna change your life. And it literally changed my life, and it's really funny, we laugh about it now, but it like actually changed my life because I ultimately decided to forego my career in producing. I ended up kind of taking a producing track and worked at a bunch of different boutique agencies, and while I was really fulfilled in that sense, something was calling me back home. And I think a lot of people that I speak to that have returned home to start businesses or to settle down here have had similar sentiments, that there's just something in the air right now.
Right.
There's just a lot going on, and there's just really good energy and
A lot of good energy.
a lot of really good energy,
Yeah.
right? You gotta ride that wave.
Right.
So it truly was literally a calling. When they say it was a calling, like, I couldn't put the idea away. I sat in my apartment for weeks on end. Like, I would take my Saturday nights to put a business plan together and do my research and study other similar business models, and that kind of developed into like traveling around and studying like hands-on, like going and meeting different studio owners and really like doing my homework before walking into my boss's office and saying like, I'm leaving, sorry.
Smart.
So that exploratory, I became so invested in it that it was something that I felt compelled to 100% do. Like, the idea of staying there and continuing in my job and on that path was like, I was gonna die if I didn't do this. I never felt something so strongly before.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a wild journey, but here we are.
Here we
We're
are.
a year in later, and
Congratulations.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Just like all of the material that I read, it is definitely a roller coaster of an experience. But it has been one of the most rewarding and fulfilling things ever, and I'm really delighted to be where I am.
Yeah. Looks like everything's going really well for Right Society.
Thank
All
you.
the social media is awesome. And
Appreciate
just
that.
a little disclaimer, I did the
Yes.
in-home Right Society
Tucker was there
workout.
from the very beginning.
Original.
Yeah,
Tucker and I
terrible.
go way back.
We do go way
We
back.
go like way back.
Like
So like we're like old school Pensacola East Hill homies.
We are.
So like
Same
we
street.
of all people have seen same street.
Yeah.
Have seen the evolution. Like it's crazy that like our neighborhood is now like the hot spot,
Right.
right? It's so
Back
crazy.
then it wasn't.
No, we were like
I
we
remember.
paved the way.
Yeah, I remember back in the day with my walkie-talkie. You know, you head a little west, it wasn't so good. But
Right.
nowadays, I mean,
I know.
East Hill's awesome.
I
So I
know.
mean, Pensacola in general is just like.
It's a
going
new
the right
place.
direction.
Yeah.
But let's get to some
There you go.
questions. Let's dive
Hit me.
in. I'll let you take it away, Jimmy.
As you opened up, excuse me, you were talking about going through a breakup,
Yeah.
and that led you to go into this class. So talk a little bit about your vulnerability and how uncomfortable you were, not knowing you personally. Like, what did it take to open up, kind of those doors to trying that? And,
Such a great question, Jimmy. I love that. I love to talk about my feelings. And we love to talk about our feelings at Right Society. I think, a lot of people in the day-to-day hustle, we get caught up in our busy lives and, I can definitely say that was the case for me. Like my work required me to work around the clock. I had very little me time, like time to restore and really just kind of like recoup before the week ahead. Like my weekends were crazy. And so the little time that I did have, I would find myself, with going with my girlfriends or by myself to these spin classes. And what I experienced there that I never experienced anywhere else was they focused on the mental internal component, and it was literally on those spin bikes that I would be like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
And asking myself these hard-hitting questions that you wouldn't really think to ask yourself, lying in
I
bed at
remember
night
asking
or
myself that during the in-home sessions. With
Yeah, what am I doing
what
here?
am I doing?
I don't know, there's something about pushing your body, as you guys know, pushing your
Yeah.
body to your max, and when you kind of blend something that is a really big part of the Right Society experience is the music, and I think when you blend your physical effort with intentional, powerful music and motivating instructors that can kind of help guide that thought process to bigger questions, powerful breakthroughs are possible.
Right.
And yeah, Jimmy, it was crazy. Actually, I have a really funny story that I will tell quickly.
Yeah.
My girlfriend took me to, it was the Tribeca Soul Cycle, and it was like an evening class, and I literally was like fresh off this breakup, and I was just heartbroken, devastated, like nothing about life was good, right? And we walk into the studio, and I take my bike, and I'm getting set up, and my girlfriend comes back in, and she's like, oh my God, Jonah Hill is coming into our class. Like right now, oh my God, there he is. Oh my God, he's coming over here. Jonah Hill like sits next, his bike was like right next to mine, and he was placed on the sidebar, which is like by the mirror. Like I was so checked out of life, you guys have no idea. Like I was just like, did not faze me whatsoever. So I'm on this bike, and class is starting, and I don't remember, I blacked out because I just was like crying. We call it the spin cry at Right Society, like when you just have to like let it all go. And after class was over, and we were walking out, and Jonah Hill turned to me and was like, I saw you smiling at me. And I was like, say what? I was not smiling. I legit said those words. I was like, I was not smiling. He was like, what, you're not happy? I was like, no, I'm not happy.
That's awesome.
And it was just funny when I look back now to like realize that to go back to your question, like the personal journey and evolution I did experience through this particular workout, and how I will forever regret not being friendly with Jonah, because who knows where I could be today.
Right. I think Jonah was hitting on you.
Jonah was also working out hard because he was training for Wolf of Wall Street, so those was like healthy
Maybe
Jonah
we should
days.
tag him in here.
You know what's funny? My girlfriend took my phone, and like that was when Twitter was like just starting to be cool, and she like hollered at him on through my account. I didn't even know like how to use Twitter, and she like hollered at him like same time next week at Jonah Hill. Definitely did not respond, But we saw him again. We saw him again a couple other times. But anyway,
That's cool.
I think a lot of people find this workout for a bunch of different reasons and they stay for a bunch of different reasons, but our goal is to create a place where you can be vulnerable and do what you need to do to kind of come to the answers that you might need to find that you may not take the time or have the headspace to come to in your day-to-day grind.
Let's talk about something every entrepreneur faces, and that's failures.
Yeah.
So what are some of the first failures that you encountered with starting up Right
Yeah.
Society? And let's go into, being a female entrepreneur. Was there any hurdles
Sure.
that you had to overcome that you think that maybe
Sure.
men wouldn't, in a
Yeah.
sense, in Pensacola?
For sure.
Yeah.
I think that failure is obviously an incredible motivator and always a wonderful opportunity to learn and grow, particularly in the early days of starting Ride Society in the studio. We were faced with just logistical challenges because it is a brick and mortar and we have, the experience, the physical experience is so important. It was definitely a struggle to find and create this like urban experience in downtown Pensacola, because really at the time we started looking, Palafox was really like poppin', and there was not a lot of like super applicable spaces that would work with the square footage that we needed. And anyway, that was a challenge, and every time we thought something would pan out, it wouldn't. And there were for sure lots of times I was like, well, what the hell, I'm gonna move to Chicago, or I'm gonna move to London. Like, this idea is not worth it. This is taking too much time. I think something I really am learning and I believe strongly in is like, you get a good idea, right? And then you put so much energy into it, and like, when
It's
like
your baby.
it's your baby for sure. And if you nurture it and you become attached to it, like, I think a lot of times what separates certain people to continue to push through on something as hard as starting a business is like, you have to be a self-motivator, and you have to stay true to being proactive on your own to get an idea off the ground, because there's going to be failure left and right, and there's going to be things that slow you down or require you to pivot your direction. And I went on a tangent there, but
No, it's all good.
I think, failure, what I've learned from those experiences is I have to just kind of always check myself and be like, okay, I could let this idea go. At one point I loved this idea and I thought it was brilliant, and do I still think it is? And like, do I still have the energy to put towards it? Because like, personal energy, I'm learning, guys, is like so precious. And especially running, we're open 7 days a week. We have classes every day, morning, afternoon, and evening, and so like that grind is real. And I've learned that failure can occur when I'm not real with myself about preserving my own personal energy, and I think that's definitely a conversation that's shifting amongst
mental health in a sense.
Sure. I think for me it's literally just like physical energy. I'm very lucky. I think I'm optimistically minded, and I have a really amazing squad of friends and family that keep me lifted and inspired regularly. But I'm talking like an Epsom salt bath and like a nice dinner out, and taking time for myself to recharge my batteries so that I can be on for the people that I need to be on for day to day.
Talk about the anxiety that you had, and did you feel rushed that you were taking too long to hit goals or to open?
Sure.
And did anyone tell you no in that process? And like, what did you do to overcome that?
For sure, it's kind of like what I was just describing. For sure, there were days that like the momentum of my ideas and like certain elements of getting the studio off the ground, it would like lag, and like, paperwork wasn't going through or whatever, and it's just very frustrating. And like, that's, for me, I definitely am like, have the New York City hustle in me, and I like to get things done and move on to the next, right? So it's hard to manage that type of stress. It can be hard, but I mean, that's why we work out, right? And also I think it goes back to just holding true to what you want to accomplish. And I just had my mind set, and I really just, that's, my little mantra, I say it a lot in our classes, and my friends know that I'm like, proceed with confidence. Like, for sure, people along the way, I think in the early days, when I was like, what do you guys think? Is this a good idea? Like at brunch with my friends in New York, I was like, do you think I should do this crazy thing? Like completely pivot my life to do this? And to be perfectly honest, no one really ever was like, I think they saw in me like my genuine interest, and I hate the word passion, but my passion for it. And to be honest, I feel really lucky because I think because I did have a strong support group pushing me and be like cheering me on. I never really felt like I had like the haters coming at me.
No one telling you no?
No, I mean, I think going back to your question about being a female entrepreneur, for sure, you know, it's 2019 and for sure, women still have to fight just a little harder, I think, sometimes to be heard or respected.
It's crazy.
You know.
Yeah, I feel like being in Pensacola in the South, there's a little bit more of a
older generations.
Negative mindset.
I think that for sure, I think, you know, the male-female thing has always played a part in that equation in business. But I think particularly in the South, you know,
don't keep it
a
PC.
little bit more broad,
Yeah.
a little bit more broad, though. I think that, you know, my experience has been there are a lot of older players in the city that are really totally advocating for these young entrepreneurs to come in and do our damn thing, right?
Yeah.
To be honest, I've had more of that experience than the opposite, which is great.
Yeah,
you know, I think that's we need.
It's how
Not to say that we
Pensacola's
need
gonna grow.
them.
Yeah.
I don't think we need them, but I think that there's just always something to learn from everyone. And like I said, my approach was just to proceed with confidence, keep my eye on the prize, and really just work as hard as I needed to manifest my vision.
Nice. Let's start talking about Ripe a little bit. So you're opening up this fitness studio. I'm sure you see this need for cold pressed juices. I'm sure you saw all over New York. What made you start a whole nother business inside of Ride Society?
Yeah. So really the concept was for the juice bar to be a supplementary like amenity, right, to our riders. And for sure in New York, like it was a luxury that I didn't realize how much I took for granted to have like fresh, delicious, organic, awesome food like on every street corner. And it frustrated me every time I came home. I'm like, well, where can we just get a fast salad, or like where can I get a juice that's not been like pasteurized and sitting on a shelf for weeks? And
artificial sweeteners.
Yeah, it's frustrating. And I think just more big picture, it's another like reason why I was really compelled to bring Ride Society to Pensacola, is because I just think the health conversation still needs a little bit more of a spotlight down here. We
slowly moving in the right direction.
100% think it's shifting, and
Right fueling it.
it really excites me to see other similar cities growing in similar ways where, you know, more big city concepts are moving into these smaller towns and they're working, right? I think that's really good. It says a lot about our community here. But cold pressed juice is delicious, number one, and it's really legit, quick and easy way to get a ton of nutrients and to energize yourself in a wholesome way. And so that was really the thinking behind that.
What's your favorite juice at Ripe?
Tucker, it depends on what's going on in my life. I'm fighting a little something, just a little something in the back of my throat. So I'm all about this, our orange. It's like our orange base with turmeric and ginger and a little bit of apple and lemon, citrus, those immunity boosting.
Nice.
Goodness, yeah. Otherwise, I'm a beet girl, a beet or a greens. A G2, not too savory, not too sweet.
Pivot a little bit back to Ride Society, and I know I've mentioned this to you before, but you know, you see Ride Society gear, you know, in the gym, you know, outside of the studio. on the streets, you know, with some jeans and a hat, and it's almost turned into a streetwear. So
It has, it's everywhere.
let's, you know, and I say this with all good intentions, but you've created a cult, and it's awesome to see. So let's dive a little bit more into that and what your
society cult.
Yeah, what your vision was, and you know, it certainly seems like based on your, you know, past in school, like it was always this creator that you were, like you had this huge vision, and you know, seeing it kind of play out, and you know, like I just mentioned, you know,
Definitely done the branding right, for sure.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
How, you know, the ups and the downs of this culture, this cult that you've created. It's amazing to see, but you know, kind of tell me a little bit more about that. And
Sure, yeah. First of all, I take a cult as a compliment 100%.
Oh,
I
yeah,
said that
it
to you
absolutely
before.
is.
We, you know, I think the word passion is so overplayed and overused, but I really am passionate about the experience that we do at our studio, and for us to bring a visual identity to life that represented what we do in that room was so much fun, and just a total creative, like, it was just like therapy for me. I worked in branding. I worked at a boutique agency. Was my last company that I worked for in New York, and so I really, like, if I ever do anything else, I would love to get back into that world because it's just so fulfilling and fun. And we really did. I set out to create a lifestyle brand because for us, it is more than a workout. It's really not. I mean, yes, we do high intensity cardio, but it's like I said, going back to what I said before, the whole purpose of it is to work your body to a place where you're vulnerable and your mind is clear, and you're able to, just feel alive, right? And so
building a culture.
There's a much bigger why than the
for sure. So, you know, and as a, you know, as a girl that enjoys fashion, it was really, really fun to think about how we could expand on our brand in that way. And I would, maybe in another life, I would love to also be a fashion designer. I don't know, but I think it's really, obviously, it's a privilege and an honor to see our writers representing what we stand for, you know, wearing our swag, and it's just really cool. It definitely drives home the fact that we are a community, and at the end of the day, like, what we practice is inclusivity, so it doesn't matter if you're into fitness, if you're not into fitness, if you have been into fitness before, like, we're just, whatever it is that you're looking for, we hope that you can find something that will inspire you or lift you up, and we hope that the brand reflects that.
So, talking about brand, what was one of the most difficult things that you had to go through when starting your brand?
Okay.
And how long were you in the process of not having a physical...
The branding process?
Well, not the branding process, but...
physical space?
Yeah, physical space. Like, so what was, the sort of time frame of, like, creating the brand, not being in a physical space, that whole...
Okay, so, man, it's crazy. It's not been that long, but it's crazy how, like, the busier you are, like, the less you remember. I want to say I was on the hunt for a space for probably 8 months. Like, I was still in my job in New York working and flying home as often as I could to, like, scout spaces, right?
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until I packed my bags and moved home that we started to embark on the branding process. And that was, like, made it so real. Like, at first at every point along the way of bringing this to life, I was like, wow, I can't turn back now. This is so real. Like, quitting my job, right? That was like, wow, this is it. I'm doing it. But, like, I would have these thoughts, well, I guess I could still technically, like, go back and not do this, right? And then, like, signing the lease, I was like, oh my God, this is so real. And I definitely can't turn back, you know? And then, like, in the middle of the night, like, oh my God, maybe I could. Maybe there's still an out. If I really need to get out of this, maybe I could still get out. But I think once the brand started to visually come to life, like, it's probably one of the most rewarding components of starting a business. It's literally birthing something, you know,
Yeah.
and like when you can put a logo and a visual identity to all that you stand for, it's really powerful and cool. And timeline wise, I want to say it was pretty fast, but I hadn't worked so hard, Tucker, on defining what I wanted. I worked well before I even left New York on creating mood boards and taking photos of other spaces and, you know, Pinterest boards and tons of Google searches, and I really felt like I had a really strong point of view. So when we set out to like put pen to paper, it was very like, it felt very streamlined and like everything. We were lucky. I'm gonna shout out my girl Veronique at Hashmark Studios. Delighted to work with another female entrepreneur here in Pensacola. She did all of our branding, and it was amazing to work with someone who's like-minded in that way, but also B, you know, she's just an incredible talent, and she took what we gave her and
Ran with it.
and we were it was really, really fun to see it evolve and like ultimately land on what we did.
How'd you pick the name Ride Society?
I would say actually that was one of the hardest things, because
Yeah.
there are a lot of different studios that exist. So it was, while it's very important, of course, we just kind of, you know, going back to what it was about for me and how I fell in love with this whole thing in the beginning, was that it was a place, it was a culture, it was a community, it was a society of people that I could like show up to at the end of my day and felt like I was at home. And so that was kind of how it came together. Secretly, I just wanted to have like this, I really did want to build a cult. I was like, I want it to be this like underground club where everyone is welcome, and
Which is great for a business to have that type of following.
Yeah, and you can see it the day to day. So congratulations on that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Kind of as we start to wrap up, you being again this creator, you know, your day to day busy life. What kind of content are you consuming? What keeps you going?
Podcasts, books,
Sure.
Yeah.
TV shows.
I can't wait to subscribe to this podcast and learn more about other local entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So like, to be perfectly honest, there's a lot of noise. Like literally, I listen to music all the time because that is our business.
Right.
So when I have quiet time, which is very rare, like driving here, I had some quiet time. Our joke amongst my fellow instructors is like, we sit in peace and quiet, because it is so precious.
Yeah.
And
Nothing wrong with a little bit of self-care.
it's totally like the self-care thing is definitely being on the other end of this experience. In that I'm not like a client at Ride Society, right? I'm like running it, so I don't get to experience it like I got to experience it at my studios in New York. So I have to kind of work a little harder to find that time for myself, because as the owner, when I'm in class or if I'm in the studio, like I'm thinking of it from that perspective. So the way I recharge and like reboot is for sure podcast. I definitely try to read when I can. I'm really into yoga, and I really want to practice more of that. I need to create more time for that.
I think we all do.
Yeah.
We all need a little yoga in our lives.
I definitely believe that. I think that it's very important to stay connected to what's going on, you know, in your particular industry and just in the business world in general. You can very easily go down the rabbit hole of like, there's been days where like I don't know what's going on in the world. I don't, you know, I strive to, I'm working towards finding that balance. Especially because my job is so physical that, you know, when I do have downtime, I kind of don't want to go to a hot vinyasa yoga class. I want to rest. I can go get a massage. But I think that it is very important to always be absorbing and consuming things, whatever it is that is inspiring you at the time. Like right now I'm listening to this Deepak Chopra meditation. They have a guided meditation that they do. They have tons of them, but they release a new one every couple of months, and it's it's very inspirational and it's very relaxing, and it kind of helps ground me on my why. Sorry.
Is that a male Siri?
It is a British male Siri.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Sorry. Siri.
No, you're
Don't
good.
embarrass me like that.
What's one thing that you've learned in this process? It could be starting a business, ramping up, after you got it open, that you wish you knew when you first got started. Or it could be something that you've learned now that you wish you knew when you were 21.
Sure. Okay. My answer to that, I had to answer a similar question recently, and my answer is, the first thing that comes to my mind is, as most people probably do, they do a lot of research before starting a business, right? You read a lot about the trials and tribulations and the roller coaster that you can expect. And I remember just knowing, almost like buckling up and being like, this is gonna be intense, I have no idea what to expect, and I basically am preparing myself for the unexpected. And that, what I have learned is that is 100% real. That every day looks different. Every day you're faced with new challenges, and every day another thing that I was told and had knew before embarking on this journey was that you have to be your own champion, and you have to be able to wake up every single day and grind.
Yeah.
Because
Put the work in.
the show has to go on, and especially for something like what we do, as I said, there's like things happening, classes happening every single day. And so just making sure that the ball is always rolling and things are working, and just operationally, like, things are on track. It is a lot of effort, and while it's very rewarding, I didn't really know. I knew I was gonna figure it out and learn like how much it was gonna require, but my life has never looked. I'm definitely experiencing like a human experience that I've never had before. I mean, don't get me wrong. I listened to the Fiore podcast, right, and I remember her saying like the New York grind is very real, and I was like, nothing could be as bad as like working on production shoots like till 4 a.m. and then turning right back around and going back to the office. But like, it's a different type of hustle. So it looks and feels different, but it's a lot, and to know that going into it, I think, is a very important thing, because I think a lot of people are not willing to fight for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, or that things will work themselves out, or they don't. You have to work it out.
I think that's really important, because nowadays, with social media being so huge, you see someone's business on social, may have like hundreds of thousands of followers, and think, oh man, I want to start that up. But they don't see really behind the scenes.
Success.
Right,
Yeah.
they don't see behind the scenes where, no, this has been years in the making, tons of research.
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome that you bring that
A
up.
lot of work, right? I actually I like that you bring up social media. I think I kind of have a big problem with social media these days. While it's obviously great to have an online community, to that point, I think there's a really big influx of people wanting to start businesses, and that's wonderful. It's great. But you're right. I think a lot of the times people are painting pictures of it's made to look effortless.
It's
be
not.
deceiving.
The last thing they're showing is their vulnerability.
Yeah.
They're showing a facade.
Yeah. And I just don't like what that's doing to us as a society, I miss the days when Tucker, we would run around the neighborhood and it was real.
Those days.
Long
real talk.
The 90s, early 2000s.
The golden years. But yeah, I think that vulnerability, Jimmy, is really important, and being vulnerable in this process is very important.
Yeah. I think maybe one more question before we wrap it up. I'll let you have a question.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Well, this is 100% for the consumer.
Yeah.
So for those that are, maybe lost, don't know what the next step is, don't know what the first step is, how can they reach out to you? How can they contact you? I have a very strong feeling that you inspire a lot of people here in Pensacola. So.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Yeah.
So your question is like getting what is their
Getting-
next step if they're like have an idea
Well, how
or
can
wanting to.
how can you help? How can they reach out to you? What are your
Well, for
contacts?
starters, they can 100% come to Right Society
Yeah.
and find us there.
What are the socials for Right Society and Right?
We're Right Society Pensacola, and from there you can link. You'll see on our highlights, Ripe. Yeah, downtown Pensacola, Palafox, and Garden, and yeah, our first Right is complimentary because we really believe in showing people what the experience is because it is so different. Group fitness is certainly not for everyone, but yeah, like I said, we hope that for those that are inspired by it, we can be a place for them to just let go, recharge, and have a good time.
Awesome.
Nice.